Good morning. Welcome to the Common Good Podcast. Hey, it's May 31st, end of May already, and Doug Pagitt here out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm with Robb Ryerse and soon to be chatting with Benjamin Hernandez, who's in Houston. Hey, we've been off, not off. We've done some different things for the last week here on the podcast and live stream. We hope you've kept up on it. We've tried to keep you up to date. Some more podcasts coming from what happened last week, so stay tuned to all that, y'all. But a lot going on in our world. Rob, it's hard to believe that it's been 1 week ago today that we heard the story of an 18-year-old murdering 20 people, including 17 children at the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, just outside of San Antonio. And 17 days ago, since an 18-year-old took a very similar rifle to a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and murdered people. And these are heavy days and heavy times that are going on. So we're going to be talking a bit about that today. I was in Houston and did some actions at the NRA. We'll share some of that story. And Benjamin Hernandez, who lives in Houston, is going to be with us. He also personally confronted Ted Cruz and asked him why he doesn't support legislation that would protect people in this country. So that's going to be our conversation today. But as we always do, hello, Rob. And how's the weather out there? It's lovely here in Minnesota. Sun is going to be shining, a light breeze, and 70 degrees.
Good morning, Doug. You ever have that moment where you are just, scrolling social media or whatever, and you suddenly see your friend going viral? That's kind of a bizarre moment, but so I'm excited that I've known Benjamin for a few years and looking forward to having a conversation with him about what happened in that restaurant with Ted Cruz that I'm sure most people have seen, because when you go viral, that's what it's. The weather's fine. It's starting to get hot, but it's been unendingly windy here in Arkansas, and frankly, I'm just tired of the wind. I would like it to just be calm for a day or two, but but these are very minor complaints given what's going on in the world. I feel kind of bad complaining about the weather.
And that we're launching into summer. Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Let's talk with Benjamin. Hey, Benjamin. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to play the video of your action, but I'd love for you to describe it a bit. Tell us what happened and who you are, first of all. Just a guy trying to make good. You're on a top-notch social media company, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where your voice needs to be shared to Ted Cruz.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's I certainly didn't expect this to get as much traction as it did. To me, I'm just having dinner on Friday night with my wife, and in walks Ted Cruz, and to me, I'm clear I have to do something, right? Because there are families that are going through a tragedy right now in our state, and for Ted Cruz to go to the NRA convention like nothing, culture that place that celebrates the gun culture and blocks legislation that could prevent some things like this, and then just walk into dinner, I'm like, I have to do something. So to me, it was just like, I'm not sure that I was ready for it to go, around the world, but to me, it was just like, it's the thing that had to be done in the moment.
Okay, so you're sitting in a restaurant. Your wife is with you. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So
Ted Cruz walks in, and you say to you pull out your phone and like hit the video record button and say to your wife, "Catch this for me," or "I'm going to go up and talk to Senator Cruz," or how did that go?
Yeah. How much planning goes in? Like, how long did you sit? Did you wait till the dessert course before you decided? Like, what did you? How does all that work?
It's interesting. Let me take a step back. It's interesting because earlier in the week I had seen Beto O'Rourke confront Governor Abbott at a press conference, and I tweeted something to the effect of like, we need to confront all these hypocrites, like Beto O'Rourke did. But it's one thing to tweet, right? It's another situation now. Like, wait, when Ted Cruz walks into the restaurant where you're at, what are you going to do? And so to me, it was like very clear that like I needed to do something. I mean, that was clear. I look around, and I you know, I won't say it here, but like the F word came out, like, because to me, it was just like a reaction. I was like, I can't believe this guy's here. You know, it was
Yeah.
just like that natural reaction. My wife was like, well, hey, what's happening? And then she's like, that's Ted Cruz. I was like, yeah, that's Ted Cruz. And so to me, you know, that's where I say, like, Ted Cruz has got to have, like, be the unluckiest guy in the world. One, because you're Ted Cruz, that's pretty unlucky. But two, because, you know, I also happen to be a board member of Indivisible Houston, and part of what we do is hold politicians accountable.
Hmm.
So the fact that the
Yes.
guy in a metro area of 6 million people chooses to dine at a restaurant at the same time where a board member of Indivisible Houston is at, I mean, come on. So I text my, you know,
great.
my buddies in Indivisible on Signal. I'm like, Ted Cruz is here. Give me your thoughts, right? Because like I knew I had to do something, and so, you know, there was, I think the general consensus was like, no, just go and do what you need to do, which is like confront him and ask him questions, right? Like, can't he, you know, support these things? And so that took a few minutes, and then what took a few more minutes is we're looking back. I'm trying to find the right moment because I'm trying to think of like, well, how do I do this, right? I'm surely he knows the let me take a picture with you bit. Like he's not going to fall for that, right? And so I'm like thinking, well, I do it this way? Do I do it that way? That part took the longest because I was like, how do I approach him? Until finally I decided, okay, I'm just going to go with the picture bit, and then but I'm going to try extra hard, right? And what I mean by that is I walk up to him. So there I take the, you know, the 5 or 10 steps to get to his table, and I lean in, you know, and I say, excuse me, Senator, I'm so sorry to bother you, but when you are done with your dinner, not now, like finish your dinner, because they had just served him. I was like, may I take a picture with you? You know, and he started to move. I said, no, 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 not now, because I'm hedging against, like, you know, I'm sure he's fallen for this bit before, right? So I just want to like go out of my way to be like, no, I'm a friendly, right? I was like, no, no, please finish your dinner first. And he's like, no, 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 let's take a picture now. I was like, let's take a picture now. Okay, let's do it. So that's how we got to
So,
that
okay.
moment.
So, Benjamin, is your stomach fluttering? Are you feeling the tightness in your throat? Are you swallowing harder than other? Like, what's going on at this point? Are you
Yeah.
just laser focused and comfortable? What's happening with you?
You know, at that moment, you know, I tell you, the moment I started taking the steps towards the table, like it was done. I wasn't thinking about anything else. I knew what I had to do. I was laser focused on what I had to do. Prior to that, yeah, y'all, heck yeah, I was nervous. I've never done anything like this before. You know, I told you I'm part of Indivisible, but like I'm behind the scenes guy, you know, board member, you know, help with live streaming stuff, like behind the scenes, right? So like this is not like not haven't been a direct action in your face kind of person, but I was there, and that's the
Yeah.
role that I needed to play. And so, yeah, I was like really nervous, but it's funny because one of my friends told me when they were watching the video, she's like, man, you went from 0 to 60 real quick. Like you took that picture, and the moment that picture was done,
You
you just
did.
like went right into him. I was like, because that's what I was there to do. You know, the picture was
Yeah.
just to get me in that space with him. But yeah, I was definitely nervous about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Benjamin,
So let's watch. Can we watch the video, Rob, or do you want to say
yeah.
something more
No,
about it
no, no,
before
no,
we
no.
say it?
Well, I
Right.
just wanted to say that, like, Benjamin, you are like you're a pretty soft-spoken guy. Like I've known you for a couple of years, and like I have never seen you loud or confrontational. Like, so this really seemed like completely out of character for you in some ways.
You know, y'all, yeah, I mean, like there was like a lot of rage inside of me because,
Mm,
you know, when you know, every time one of these tragedies happens, right? In Texas, it's been Santa Fe, El Paso, Midland, you know,
mm,
Uvalde. You have the same response from politicians, and I'm like, I mean, enough is
Yeah.
enough, y'all. I've
yeah.
been wearing
Yeah.
this wristband here, you know, this blue wristband. I got it right after Santa Fe. I've been wearing it for
Mm,
4 years straight, every single day, because to me, it's a reminder. It's just a
yeah.
small way that I remind myself of we haven't done
Mm.
anything about gun violence in this country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so to see Ted Cruz walk in there like nothing, I was like, yeah, there was a lot of pent up rage because there are
Yeah.
families right now that are grieving, and perhaps they don't have the head space to confront their elected officials, and they shouldn't, right? They should grieve, and that should be the
Yes.
primary thing they
Mm,
should be doing. But for me, I was like, here I am in this space with Ted Cruz. I cannot waste this moment to hold one of our elected officials accountable. You feel me kind of like getting emotional because it's like that pent up rage and anger. And so, like it is not me at all, y'all. It is not me at all, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look.
Okay, you ready? Yeah. Okay, hold on. All right, 1, 2, 3. Go. We're good. Yeah, we got it.
I would encourage you. I gave a half-hour speech today in the NRA convention because there are actually a lot of laws.
Yeah, but can you tell me, like, I have a young daughter, can you tell me why it's more important, why you can't support stronger gun laws?
Because
I mean,
the laws
that's background check. Tell me about background check. What about background check? Background check. Can we do background check?
Sir?
Is it so hard?
All right, you don't want to listen to me?
But is that so hard? No, I do. I'm just saying.
No, you actually don't.
Go ahead.
So, if you look at the laws, the Democrats are doing, they wouldn't stop the mass murder.
Do you know this shooter waited until the day he was 18? Why is it so hard to support stronger gun laws?
But background check wouldn't stop this shooter. But you know what would have? The bill that I introduced.
You can make it harder for people to get guns in this country.
Sir,
you know that. No. You know that, but you stand here. You stand at the NRA convention. It is harder. It is harder when there are more guns to stop gun violence.
Ignorance and hatred.
It is not ignorance.
You don't know what you're talking about.
We are in this country and there are guns everywhere, and there are kids dying. There are kids dying. Why is it so hard?
Why is it so hard? Why is Democrats my bills that would have stopped you?
I told you that. Why can't you just support stronger guns?
I've introduced multiple stronger guns.
But why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? Why? Hey.
Okay. He's just talking.
Why does this keep happening? If you don't get in his face, and why did you come here to the convention?
You need to back
take
up. You
blood
need to
money?
back up. You need
Why?
to back up.
When 19 children died,
You need to
19
back up.
children died. That's on your hands. That is on your hands. Ted Cruz, that's on your hands.
Wow. How does it feel? How does it feel watching that, Benjamin?
It's painful. I was telling somebody yesterday, somebody asked us for a transcript of it, and I had to go back and watch it and sort of listen to it. It's painful, y'all.
Yeah.
What strangely isn't painful is when they're dragging me out, and that's not the painful part. The painful part to me, even right now, is just watching this politician, this person in power, just stand there like nothing and defend doing nothing. That's the painful part for me. And even when I'm watching it right now, I'm just like repulsed that like you can sit there, because what angered me the most about his answers is like he started to go into his canned answer. I had watched a clip of him earlier in the week talking to the Sky News reporter where he says, in that clip, he says, the proposals that the Democrats and the media and then blah, blah, blah. And then he gives me the same thing. So I'm listening to, I was like, wait, I just heard you. So all you're giving me is the canned response? Oh, hell no, right? And to me, I'm like, that's why I had to press him. I'm like, no, I don't want the canned response. I don't want the Democrats this or the Democrats that. I want Ted Cruz. Why can't you get on board with something so simple? So simple, right? And that's what I wanted an answer to. And that's what's painful about watching, and what angers me the most is they have no interest in doing this. They have no interest. And also, he starts talking to me about and I didn't catch on to this until yesterday when I was watching it. He says, what would have stopped this? My bills.
Yes.
I'm like, what the heck? What the heck bills have you?
I was going to ask you what bills he was referring to. Do you know what bill he's referring to?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious, because I'm at the point of let's try and do some things, right? So if you got bills, let's pass them, right? And then let's pass some other bills. I'm open to that. But I'm like, what bills, and why aren't you pushing for them?
Now, I am loath to want to speak for Ted Cruz. I treasure the opportunity that you have had to speak to Ted Cruz. I think, though, from what I've listened to Ted Cruz, that his bills are harden the schools. make one entrance, put an armed guard at every entrance, more like a prison setting where when you come into a school, there's always a weapon pointed at you. That's what he's talked about recently. I think that's what he's talking about in his bill. So his answer, which I find repulsive, is the answer to gun violence is more guns used by people that he wants to trust. So my guess is that's what it is. So I can't speak for him, but that's likely what's what he's got going on.
Yeah, so often when these kinds of things happen, the excuse that Republican leadership gives is that, these are just activists. These are just this is astroturf. People bust in from places. This is blaming the insurrection on Antifa, and trying to suggest that like there's something beyond just a regular citizen who is fed up with what's taken place. I mean, Benjamin, you're involved in politics, but you're not like a activist per se, and you are we're going to talk about what Doug was involved in Houston over the weekend, from Minneapolis coming to Houston, but you're not a transplant. You live there. I mean, you're not just a random person confronting Ted Cruz. You're one of his constituents. He's supposed to represent you. We're really at this point where it's such a shame that that our elected leaders, can't even answer questions from their own constituents.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is like, people ask me, is that the right way to approach, a politician? Is that the right way to approach Ted Cruz? I'll tell you, I wasn't thinking about that. You know what I was thinking about? There are families suffering, and this is the moment that I have to confront somebody, because Ted Cruz, especially Ted Cruz, is known for not opening himself up. The guy doesn't hold town halls or forums where you can ask him questions. Try to get an appointment. He only takes appointment with friendlies. Indivisible, we got kicked out of his office in 2017. And so to me, a person who closes the doors to speak with their constituents. So if I'm going to find him, and we're going to run into each other, and he's going to enter my space where I'm trying to have dinner, we're going to have a conversation, because he is my elected official, right? And I think there's another component to this. I think what we have to realize is that for good reason, no reason, bad reason, whatever, times have changed. And, the time, I would say, for civility, I'm not talking about violence, always nonviolence. But to me, the time for that civility, that's over. Like, somebody moved the playing field on us, and they remarked it, right? And expanded the boundaries of what we need to do. And so to me, and again, whether you like that or not, but that's the reality. And so to me, if I see Ted Cruz or one of my elected officials walking down the street, the grocery, the theater, whatever, to me, that is fair game if they don't open themselves up to have conversations. If Ted Cruz would have said, listen, Mr. Hernandez, I'd love to, but look, here's my card. Call me, set this up, and I will talk to you on Monday. Monday morning, I'll talk. Great, I'll take that. Have your dinner. Let's talk on Monday. But they're not going to do that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I really appreciate your assertiveness there. I think it was right. It was one of these great examples of nonviolent direct action, right? In this case, sometimes nonviolent direct action, which is very technical terms, by the way, people. If you're unfamiliar with what that means, Google nonviolent direct action, and you'll see what really goes into it. A lot of organizers have used it. You weren't violent, but you also stepped forward with some action, right? You were resisting in an appropriate way. Like, you were going to finish your conversation before you left. When those, I don't know if they were Secret Service or his own private security or people from the restaurant, it looked like there was sort of a gathering storm of people around you to move you away. Were you aware of that? And were you thinking about those people who are around you, and at what point you needed to stop that engagement, and at what point you needed to sort of move away, and you'd completed your task? How was that going on in your mind?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm just trying to have this conversation. And where you see things begin to escalate is when his security, his private security, which, by the way, he ripped on the people that have, that live in gated communities and have private security. I'm like, well, I mean, it was your private security that dragged me out of the restaurant, but it was his private security, two security people plus one person at his table. The restaurant management didn't step in. They walked over like briefly in the beginning, a guy in black, and then basically said, "Hey, sir, and I get that restaurants have to do that piece of it, but whether it had been there at the sushi restaurant or anywhere else, I would have confronted him." But to me, getting back to the point is that, it started to get more physical when they put their hands on me, right? I'm just trying to have this conversation with him. And to be honest with you, I'm laser focused on Ted Cruz. There's a moment where you see I break away because I'm like, somebody's touching me. Like, what's like,
I saw
I'm not
that.
even paying. I'm like, who's touching me? Like, stop, man. Like, I'm trying to, do this thing. And then I'm re-engaging back with Cruz because I don't know what's happening around me. I'm just like, hey, I need you to answer these questions, which you don't. Now looking at the video, I know like those are the guys that pulled me out. But no, I wasn't paying too much attention to that. I was just trying to have the conversation and finish.
Well, thank you for that work. Did they make you pay your bill? Could you come back in the restaurant, sit down, finish your stuff, get your thing together, sign your check, leave a tip, all that?
Here's the other part of that too is Houston, by the way, for everybody is a great restaurant culture. We have great restaurants. We have great people in the service industry, and we love the people in our service industry. And as this was going down, I was like planning on like how to approach him and like do the picture bit and all of that. One thing became clear: I needed to ask for my bill because I didn't know if I was going to get a chance to sit back down. And I did ask for my bill. And then I gave a very large tip because, there was probably going to be, I was going to cause some disruption for our server. And I just want to be mindful of that, right? Folks who are working in the service industry, it's not their fault that Ted Cruz walks into the restaurant. And so to me, that was like a priority, is taking care of that. And I did. And then, sure enough, we didn't get to go back. In fact, we left our takeout, there on the counter, and we didn't get a chance to go back because we were kicked out. But, that is the least of our problems, so I'm glad that we got to take care of our server. And then, because we weren't let back in after that. We're out. We were kicked out of the door.
Yeah. Benjamin, if you have time to stay with us, I know you had, I had told you about what Doug was doing over the weekend, and you said, I would love to hear that story. Here's your chance. Doug, do you, Benjamin wasn't the only one causing a ruckus in Houston over the weekend. You were involved in a little bit too. You want to tell us about what you were up to?
Yeah, a confluence of issues came together. One is the prolonged disease that is gun violence in this country that is supported and underwritten by the gun industry and the entire firearms industry, from the weapons themselves to all the sales that go on around it. So we've all been thinking about that. And a number of us were thinking of doing an action at the National Rifle Association convention, which was in Houston this last weekend. That was rescheduled from previously. So some of us were planning to go when it was scheduled a few months ago, and then had to make adjustments. I wasn't planning to go this time because it was on Memorial Day weekend. We had some family things. Then the murders in Buffalo, the murders at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, they changed that. And I thought, okay, this is one of those moments where being present at the industry's annual meeting that supports gun violence was going to be increasingly important. So a bunch of really great people, a woman named Teresa organized an interfaith march on Friday. There was a Moms Demand Action. Beto O'Rourke was a part of that event. There were a number of other protests happening at the convention. So I went down on Friday for that. And then on Saturday, I drove to Uvalde and spent time in the town and tried to support the pastors there and other family members, and just to bear witness also to the pain and to be present with the people. And then on Sunday morning, we came back to the convention center, or Saturday night came back. So Sunday morning, we could be at the prayer breakfast that was organized by the National Rifle Association. So we had tickets for that. Somebody in our organization, in our loose network of friends, had a table at the National Prayer Breakfast and purchased tickets for it. So we were recruiting up people who could come with us to do some kind of an action or demonstration. Benjamin, a little different than your situation. We had a lot of time to think about this, right? And had to plot and scheme and plan and think about what we were going to do. And based on all the other things that had happened, we put a plan together. On Friday, we'd spent time in the convention center walking through the display
14
area.
acres.
Yeah, they were bragging. Their theme was 14 acres of paraphernalia and, in the exhibition hall. And that was heartbreaking. I can share more about that. I'll do more about that later. I've often even said, hey, look, we don't let people buy rocket launchers. So we do limit the things that people can buy that are weapons. But then I stood at a booth where they literally will sell you a rocket launcher. I mean, it's right there. There's a video with a person. I shot a video of a person. She put it on her shoulder, showed it to us. As it turns out, buying the rocket at the end of the rocket launcher, that's where things get complicated, and you have to have a permit, and you have to go. But you can buy the rocket launcher. Little third tangent here. I've long thought that if we can't regulate guns, we can regulate ammunition, like they do with rocket launchers. That's really a great model. So sure, own all the guns you want, just don't own anything you can shoot out of them. Maybe there's a solution there. So anyway, all that to say, we were there, walked the 14 acres, spent time, talked to people, partially because we wanted to be sure. I wanted to be sure, and the person I was with, Shane Claiborne, we wanted to be sure that we were connecting at a human level, because we knew what we were going to do at the National Prayer Breakfast was to stand up and call for people to join us in prayer for the victims. That if you got up for a 7 a.m. prayer breakfast at the National Rifle Association's national convention, you obviously care about the National Rifle Association, and seemingly you care about prayer. So we wanted you to pray for the victims and to move your mind that way. And we wanted it to be a sincere ask, right? I do a lot of activity, nonviolent action stuff. And sometimes you're not actually asking anyone in particular. Benjamin, like you got to actually go ask Ted Cruz to support something or to answer a question. It became a human interpersonal interaction. I've sat outside senators' offices. I've been kicked out of my senator's office for very same issues, not responding and wouldn't meet with me. And my senator is, a Democrat. So but not very often do you have a chance to actually personally ask people to do something and to join you. So we wanted to have a sense that these are the NRA members and the people at this prayer breakfast and in this convention hall. These are people, and people can make this change, and we want to call people to make that change. So we went to the prayer breakfast. We waited about 30 minutes into it after they did a welcome, and then invited someone for an opening prayer. And the person got up, and he's an NRA board member and people. And he stepped to the microphone and he said, "I'd like you to join me in this prayer." And then he read the prayer of St. Francis. "Lord, make me an instrument of your peace." Where there's, to my mind, the gall of these people to pray that prayer. Where there are people who are hurting, let me be a healing, right? Let me not consider my own needs, but to think about others. To me, it was just, then they pivoted from that to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then sing the national anthem, and then a series of comments from and about the supporters of the NRA, who were, Patriot Mobile and all these other people telling us about why buying their product is going to help save the country and the Constitution. And then they said, about 30 minutes in, "So sit back and relax. We're going to serve breakfast and we'll be back with you here in a bit." And we thought, okay, this is our chance. So not a mention of the victims. The only prayer, the prayer of St. Francis, which we thought then, okay, if you want to join that. So we stood up. There were three of us. Shane had a newspaper that we picked up the day before in Uvalde that had the pictures of the kids on it and the teachers who were murdered there. And we said, "We want to ask you to join us for prayer outside. Will you come outside and pray for the victims?" And then we'd created a refrain: "God knows their names." And then we named a name. And then we'd say, "Come join us outside for prayer. God knows their names." We were seated in the front of the prayer breakfast up by the stage. So we knew that then we would walk slowly through the crowd toward the doors, calling for people to join us. As soon as we stood up, and fortunately there was just background music playing, we didn't interrupt a speaker or anything, which we wanted to. Like, we much to your tactic, we wanted to not have the story be what a rude person that interrupted something, right? It's very easy when you do these kinds of actions, if you don't think ahead of it, to have the story become something you don't want the story to be at all. So we kind of thought that through about when we would do it, and it turned out that there was an opportunity for it. And so as we made our way out, security came up right away. They said, you have to leave. And the first thing I said when the security guard came up is, we're going outside. So it shifted their focus from you need to leave this space to we're saying we're going to leave this space and we want people to come with us. Yeah. So we made it a pilgrimage out of the room, calling for these people to come with us. And much like probably the scene in the restaurant, most people were just stunned. They didn't know what was going on. A few people were heckling us a little bit, but most people were just turned and looking and just had no idea something like this could happen. Because when you break that bubble a little bit that people are in, they don't know how to, how to respond. And that's what we wanted, right? We wanted that moment for that to happen. Got outside, security then read to us a statement that we were on private property and we were trespassing. And if we didn't leave, we were going to face arrest. And then we were escorted out of the building and then went outside and then prayed for the victims in Uvalde and in Buffalo by name, that prayer that we asked people to join us. And if you're wondering, did anyone get up and come out and join us? No one did.
At the prayer breakfast, right?
At the prayer breakfast. Yeah, they were. And we kind of, we're not being just snide, but also kind of trying to make a point. Maybe you can have a little more prayer before breakfast at the prayer breakfast. I get it that the breakfast is important, but, and the fact that frankly, even Donald Trump was scripted to say the names of the victims on Friday in his presentation. So we know that they are willing to say the names of victims, but they chose not to do it in the first 30 minutes at the prayer breakfast. I don't have full verification, but I also believe that they never did it anywhere at the prayer breakfast. They never talked about that. So that was our action.
Yeah.
And similarly, we recorded it because that was the point, much like you did. Like, we were recording it because we wanted people to feel like they could see it and feel like they were part of it. Did you think a similar thing? Oh, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if folks want to see all of this happen and see how it goes down, you can do that on our YouTube channel. There's a video of the action that Doug and Shane took part in. It's the Vote Common Good page on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that, y'all recorded it and putting it out, because I think, it's important that people see this, and I think also see themselves as active participants where they are in the world, because you're right. I think what I experienced at the restaurant too is the restaurant went silent there toward the end. It was really noisy in the beginning, but it went silent. And I think a lot of people, you're breaking this bubble or these norms. And I think a lot of people don't know how to respond. And I think, one of the things that we're going to do in a couple of days is, do a Facebook Live webinar with some folks and talk about, like, how do you challenge folks like this, right?
Great.
Because it needs to become more of the norm, because you're right. People don't really know how to react to what I do, but ultimately you got to break through that and say, well, what is right? What do I need to do? Hey, and I want to ask you another question, because one thing that on this, because you did this at the prayer breakfast, and I think you wanted to pivot to prayer for the victims, what just really just strikes me just so strange about this, especially the NRA or the Republican Party as it is now, is this is a group of folks that, say they uphold life, but in practice, their actions are anti-life. And to me, that's as a person of faith, as a Christian, that just bothers the heck out of me, right? Because I'm like, how can you support life or say that you support life, but all of your actions are against life. I mean, the prayer breakfast, what you're talking about, I'm like, it's a prayer breakfast, right? A lot of these folks, uphold and they, say,
Mhm.
what is it, the God first or and then country or whatever it is, right? But there's always a religious component to
Yeah.
this. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, why isn't prayer for the victims something central that we're doing if that is
Yeah.
what you say your faith is, right? And I just find that really offensive as a
Yeah.
Christian. And so part of that was also inside of me when I'm talking to Ted Cruz, because I had seen them, in trying to strategize. I turned over to the table and I saw Ted Cruz and everybody at his party, bow their head to pray, something I do a lot
Mm.
when I go to a restaurant. I do that too, but I'm like, it just seems incompatible with like your actions, right?
Hmm.
So anyways, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
find that really interesting, that dynamic that's going on.
Yeah.
I'm struck by your comments, and I think they're really insightful. And what comes to mind is the story of the conversion of the Apostle Paul when he is Saul,
Mhm.
right? And I think there's a reason why those stories get included in our narratives that we carry in a faith, because here you have a story of a person who was a Jewish leader at the time, and he thought he was doing the right things. He's even overseeing the execution of a follower of Jesus, this Stephen, right? Then he's walking on the road and has this vision. And in this vision, this voice says to him, "Why are you tormenting me?" The vision says to Paul, right? Jesus in the vision. Saul has this moment where he then is struck with the thing that I am doing is having the opposite impact of what I thought it was going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, Peter has a very similar experience with a vision and something. And then he goes into the house of a Gentile and then has to say, "Now I see that God doesn't show favoritism. I had it backward." I think it's helpful to be reminded of these stories. I think we should tell one another these stories. Sometimes it's hard, though. It's hard for someone to confess their own, "I used to see it this way. Now I see it this way," right? I voted for George Bush twice, right? And I can describe why I did. And now I would not be a person who would do that same thing. So those conversion narratives, I think, are really important. We tend to get convinced that people won't change from their hypocrisy. A lot of times people don't know that they're being hypocrites. I promise you, the man sitting at the table, he just happened onto our table. We had a couple of open seats because heartbreakingly, we couldn't fill 10 seats of people who would show up at the prayer breakfast to do this
Yeah, but
action
could
with
we
us.
could we just
So
get
we
into
were-
that guy's skin for a second? Like,
So we were
he's just
30%. Yeah.
I mean, that guy, that poor guy, he's just, I don't know, Dan, can we show that? Can you show the picture that's got him in it? This poor guy, he's just getting up
Yeah.
to, have some delete. Can you take off the one? There we go. This guy with his, just drinking his cup of coffee there. Looks like he's about to put his head in his hands. Just,
Yeah, if
all
you were to
the
watch
tables
the video,
at the prayer breakfast, I
that's
had
right.
to end up with these rabble rousers.
If you were to watch the video, you'll watch that guy just head goes down. He just does nothing but drink his water during this whole little episode, right? trying to slip away. But he's exactly the person, right? So this particular man from New York and goes to a Missouri Synod Lutheran church. His pastor was razzing him about missing church on that day. He told us a lot of stories about guns and how important they are. He has no idea what we're up to. Yeah. Shane's telling him that he lives in Philadelphia near the Camden neighborhoods, and this guy's talking bad about it. And Shane's like, "No, we just live places like everywhere where you love each other, And truly, the prayer of Jesus, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." It's a good one. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't know, or that I'm not giving people a pass for not knowing. But I promise you that person, he has no one in his life who he trusts, who he knows, who's telling him these things. He told us that, right? Shane even had, we have these little tracks there that like have a picture of an AR-15 on the front and then a cross, and it says you have to choose which one. And it's like a Bible tract, but made to convert people away from supporting guns. He gave these to the guy. The guy's looking at him and he can't quite even, he's thinking these guys must be support. He can't quite put the pieces together, not because he's not bright. As it turns out, that particular guy works in the biomedical field, and oversees vaccine distribution for COVID. Like he is deep in, he's had 7 vaccinations. He's like, yeah, a lot of people around here, they don't buy the vaccine thing, that we're into, but it's really important and it's good things and it's safe. And here's how the MNRA vaccine, he's like recruiting us to know how the MNRA vaccine works. Right. So you're just thinking to yourself, what a mix of people. And the thing I appreciate so much, Benjamin, about what you did is that we just shouldn't give up on people. Right. Like we can be frustrated and tired and beaten down and saddened. And then you go back again and you go back again and you just keep going on Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz might be heading to his own Damascus some point, and the blindness will come and then the blindness will be lifted. And some point, maybe he's going to see more clearly. And it very well could come back to the kind of interactions that you had with him.
Yeah. I mean, I hope so. I think that like all folks, and I speak for myself as a person of faith, right? Like, I think those moments are necessary for reflection and really looking and analyzing and introspection and looking at, well, what do we really believe? Yeah. And I think that's so important. And I think, one of the best things I ever did in my faith journey is question my faith. Right? Like, why do I do this thing? Why do I go to church? Why do I read the Bible? Why? What is this thing that I believe? Because it wasn't until that moment when I started to do it that I actually then began to believe it, because I questioned it, right? And I think so many people are afraid to question their beliefs, and like it's anathema, like don't do that, like it's not a thing that you're supposed to do, it's anti-God. But to me, I'm like, the moment you begin to do that, you can really begin to believe, because you see it from a different perspective. And I think that's just so important, and sort of breaking out of our shells. One of the more important things I ever did in my life, is just even like going to churches from different denominations, because to me, it was about looking at the breadth of Christianity and what it is, right? And that just provided me so much exposure to how faith is expressed, faith is practiced, the Christian faith, right? Within that, but also even beyond it, going to the mosque with some of my Muslim friends, right? And what you begin to realize is that faith is a deeply held thing, but it's on the surface until we begin to really, begin to experience it and let it sink into your life. And to me, that's where you have to pause for a minute, question what you believe, so that you can begin to believe it for real, if that makes sense, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's where you can have those, once you have those experiences, you can have whatever conversion journey, and whatever conversion means to you, right? But whatever journey for individuals that I think God has for us. But we can't have that until we just like open ourselves for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Really well said. Really well said. Well, listen, Benjamin, you mentioned briefly that, putting together maybe a Facebook Live event to help, people think through what actions they can take. Can you say more about that? Tell us, if people want to, I don't know, be involved in some way, want to follow you, want to, I don't know, contract with you to buy their Facebook ads. I mean, tell us about, I mean, shameless plug time. Like how can people be better connected?
Yeah. So a couple of things, follow me on Twitter, the Benjamin HDZ, and then, you'll hear all about it. So in 2 days time on Thursday evening, we're going to be hosting a Facebook Live and also pushing it out to YouTube on how people can challenge their elected official. We're still wrapping up the details in the next couple of hours, but that'll be up shortly, because we want to invite people, one, to hear the backstory, much like we did today, but then ask the questions, well, how can I do this? Because I hear a lot of people saying, you're a hero for doing this. And I'm like, I'm not a hero, y'all. Like I just did what needed to be done in the moment. And fortunately, I had some friends who gave me some thoughts right before going up and doing what I was going to do, and I think like being systematic about that, because like I said, I think the moment for that civility is done. We have to, if they're not creating the space, like Ted Cruz doesn't create a space for his constituents to come talk to him, we have to make that space and challenge them. And again, Doug, I think you were saying this. I mean, it's not just for Republicans. If Democrats are doing that too, or independents, libertarian, whatever they are, and they're your elected officials, go and make a space because they have found a really comfortable area to hide from answering tough questions. And so we'll be doing that in a couple of days. And then certainly anybody who is on the Human Age Digital, this is like my profession now on the Human Age Digital. I run a digital advertising firm. In fact, we were there on Friday at the protest. Our team did all the live streaming for the protest. We did that pro bono, right? Because this is one home. Two, this is an important issue. And like, what the hell else would we be doing on that Friday in Houston? We're Houston based. But we do all sorts of digital advertising for political campaigns. And so anyways, point is, follow us here and you'll hear more. I see it now on the screen. We'll send more information, but in 2 days on Thursday night, that's going to happen.
Awesome. Well, really great. Thank you so much for sharing your morning with us and getting up early for all this and for being willing to share your voice. And I will say, I think that's exactly what heroism looks like, though. What heroes are people who do things that people feel like was heroic, not because they're special, but because they did something. And almost every time someone says, and here's all the other people that help make that possible. So I'm going to throw heroism back on you. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. And, one of our slogans around Vote Common Good is wake up, stand up, speak up. And Benjamin, you did that for sure. And, you spoke up in a way that we need everybody doing so in whatever way that they can.
Yeah. Well, thank you, folks. I'm glad to be here with you today. And if I can ever do something for you, let me know.
Great.
We will.
We'll take you up on that. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, folks.
Yeah, what a great story, right? Just all the people, and look, and there's people. I was thinking about this over the weekend, yesterday and Sunday afternoon. Like, okay, Benjamin had the opportunity to do this with Ted Cruz. I did it at a prayer breakfast and outside the convention. It's also really hard just to talk to your relative or your neighbor or your friend.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to think that these larger efforts are really the ones that take some courage and all. Boy, just bringing this up with people that are not going to think the way you do about it and need some help and really, truly don't know. And I know there's a lot of people who don't buy that. They're like, people know, they should know, and all the rest. I can assure you there are a lot of people who've just not thought about it. And they might not even be ready to think about it. And whether that's gun violence and what responses can be and all the rest, they really are without resource for how to be different on issues that so many of us know are so important. And also, look, here's the other thing is being open yourself that maybe your own ideas don't go far enough. Yeah. That's another piece of all of this, right? And it's easier for me on this issue of guns because I know that what Democrats are calling for doesn't go far enough. Yes, there should be background checks. Yes, there should maybe be an age limit. I like the age limit on assault rifles. I think the age limit should be 72, though. Like a 72-year-old can buy an AR-15, but nobody younger than that. That would help a lot. So putting in an age limit, yes. But also, we just have to ban certain pieces of violence. One of the great signs that we saw at the rally that I thought was great was one that said, "Make murder more difficult." That's not a bad motto for passing our laws. Like, let's pass laws that make it harder to kill people. Yeah. Yes, we should do that, especially on Memorial Day. You'd think some people would want to say, "Hey, killing people is not a great idea." Yeah. But we don't have laws that make it easier. Unfortunately, we have people that continue to believe. And look, I know people, loved ones of mine, family members, who believe that the way you protect people from gun violence is to give more people guns. Yeah, they're wrong about that. We need to have that conversation and engage on it. But they really do believe that that's the way forward. Yeah, for sure. Well, Rob, we try to talk about politics a little bit here. Anything else on the politics side we need to talk about? I know there's some legislation coming tomorrow. Is there, do you know, is tomorrow one of the two, or is today one of the Tuesdays where there's a primary, or are they off because no one would put it on the Tuesday after Memorial Day? because
I
everyone thinks it's Monday.
Yeah, I honestly am not sure. I'll have to check. Yeah.
Me too.
I think it's important that we talk about all of this on the politics podcast, because school shootings, gun violence needs to be politicized. I mean, school shootings need to be politicized, because the remedy is will come about through the political process of passing new laws, and that requires getting people elected who will pass those laws, and that requires being engaged in politics. And so this whole thing of the Republican strategy of shaming people by saying, "Oh, don't politicize the tragedy."
Yeah.
No, we have to politicize these things, because that's the process through which change can happen.
I agree with you. And look, it's politicians' job to make a political solution to human dilemma. So if people are politicizing it, it might be because politicians aren't doing their part on this.
Yep,
there is some legislation. We should have an argument about that legislation. We should move it forward, and be reminded, it's not only people on the Republican side of the aisle who need to be moved on this issue.
Yeah.
There are people on every side of it, people that don't, elected officials, people that are partisan and not, people that are part of parties and people that are not part of the major parties, but caucus with them, both on the Republican side and the Democratic side. There are all kinds of people. This does not simply break red, blue, Republican, Democrat, even progressive, conservative.
Yep.
It doesn't. We are not in agreement in this country about what we should do to solve for these mass murder occasions in the United States. And we need to talk about it more. And it's super hard. Like, I made a TikTok video about it this morning, and I'm like, God, it's so heartbreaking. I just, don't want to be the person that's just always talking about things that are so hard and so painful. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just, and I'm willing to do it. Like, this is what I'm doing right now. We're doing it, and I'm sure people, if they were listening so far, they're probably comfortable with this, but if they scrolled along earlier, they're likely thinking, I just don't have the energy for it. I totally get that. Who wants to talk about murders?
Yeah.
I mean, now, correct myself here. Crime drama podcasts about murders, the #1 selling podcasts. So I retract that. I hereby retract that statement. I disagree with that guy. Somebody should cancel that guy for having said that. No, people do want to talk about murders, but usually like unsolvable ones and a long time ago and some of the rest of it. It's when it strikes us personally and close to our hearts, it seems that we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Hard things, but important things.
Anything from you, Pastor Dan? Or Pastor Dan? Well, it's been a while. Anything from you, Producer Dan?
No, I'm just glad we're talking about it, even though it's
tough
conversations to have. We need to be talking about it. We need to be working toward change.
Listen, let me ask you, am I wrong? Like, you guys heard Benjamin talk. He's like soft-spoken, real deliberate. Would you have guessed that would be the guy that would be yelling at Ted Cruz in a restaurant?
Yeah, he reminds me of those Enneagram 1s and 9s that are real soft-spoken. And then there's below the surface, there's just a little volcano, and it's ready to go. And so someone's outward affect. Like, look, I've watched a lot of people who are very out, and then they get into certain situations and they, so I would buy it.
I resonated as an Enneagram 9 with a strong 8 wing. Like, chill until the need arises.
Boy, you just coined a phrase, chill until. That's the phrase of the 9. Chill until, and then chill until, and chill until it's about to spill. All right, I'll stop that. You guys are the lyricists. Dan, why don't you write us?
Yeah, I'll get right on
I think there's a
that.
song in the making. Chill until. All right. Well, hey, good people. Thanks for following us. If you're watching this on Facebook or Twitter or Twitch, go over to YouTube, June 1st is tomorrow, and we might be making some changes. So keep up with us over there at the on our YouTube channel. We're trying to, and I'm just going to explain for one more time for people who care. One of the reasons is that the way social media works, social streams are a great metaphor. The word stream for what goes on there. It's like standing by a river or a babbling brook. And you see something come by and then it's gone, and something else comes by and it's gone. And that's how it's designed. That's how it works. That's why we scroll. That's why you update every day. If you've ever had to go back and say, hey, my friend posted a video 2 years ago or 6 months ago or a day ago, I need to go find it. And you start scrolling through their Twitter feed or through their Twitch feed or through their Facebook profile. It's really hard to find. YouTube is designed differently. It's designed where you can catalog and find things. That's part of the reason that we're wanting to move some of our video efforts over there. And we want to build an audience there. So if you will help us build an audience there, it helps us, because the algorithm just rewards people that have a lot of people paying attention. It's, it's pay to play over there, but not with money. It's with people paying attention. So if you pay your attention, it will produce an outcome. So that's why we're trying to do it, because it allows us to have a different kind of a stance. So,
Yep. Get on over
YouTube tutorial. You know what that reminds me of? Back in 2009, I just can't let you guys go. Back in 2009, 10, 11, 12, 7, 8, 9,
Yeah.
Tony, my business partner at the time, Tony Jones, and I, and personal dear friend, we started a business to run conferences and events, and we ran like Christianity 21 event and lots of these training events for leaders. We started a little side bit on that called social phonics, learning the language of social media and we train religious leaders and nonprofit leaders and stuff on how to engage in social media when so much of it was still fresh, and people hadn't been on YouTube and all this kind of thing. And we were talking about all that stuff that I just went on about right there. And the other day I thought, I've been on Twitter because I saw my profile, looked at my profile to change my profile picture, which I'd changed in a long time. And I joined in April of 2007. Thought, been on Twitter for 15 years.
Oh, that's a trip.
15 years. Like, I graduated from high school in 1984, and 1969 felt like literally a lifetime ago. That's the amount of time between my high school graduation and the time I've been on Twitter.
Wasted a perceived lifetime on the Bird app.
On the Bird app. I don't know why I'm saying that. All that to say, if in, I don't know, a few years you haven't freshened up yet and tried something new, follow us over on YouTube. Maybe that's going to be a fresh bit. All right. Anything else?
Nope. That's it.
No, I'm good.
Talk to you guys tomorrow. Talk to all of you tomorrow.
Yep. See everybody
Don't
then.
leave us hanging. Okay, bye.